Have you ever sat there knowing exactly what you should be doing and still done absolutely nothing? You stare at the laundry pile. You glance at the gym bag by the door. You reread the same line of a document for the third time. And somewhere in the back of your head, a voice goes, "Why am I like this?" If you've ever blamed yourself for being lazy, you're not alone. But what if I told you it's not laziness at all? It's efficiency. We grow up with this idea that hard work should feel hard, that if something doesn't take effort, it doesn't count. So when we avoid tasks, delay them, or do the easier thing instead of the right thing, we call it a failure of willpower, a flaw in our character. But your brain, it's playing a whole different game. Biologically, your brain is a master of energy conservation. Despite making up only about 2% of your body weight, it uses around 20% of your daily energy. That's a lot of power for a squishy pink organ that doesn't even do squats. So over time, evolution shaped it to do one crucial thing: don't waste energy. That's why your brain loves habits, why it sticks to routines, why it craves the familiar. Because the more predictable something is, the less your brain has to think. It starts running on autopilot. That's not laziness, that's energy savings. It's like your brain flipping on cruise control to get you through the day with minimal effort. In neuroscience, some researchers talk about this as predictive processing. Your brain is constantly guessing what will happen next based on past experience. So it doesn't have to start from scratch every time. That guesswork saves resources. It speeds things up. And it works surprisingly well most of the time. But here's the trade off: when something doesn't match the prediction, say starting a new habit, learning a complex skill, or doing a task you usually avoid, the brain goes, "Hold up, that's unfamiliar. That's expensive." And then it throws a little resistance your way. Not because it hates you, not because you're weak, but because new effort burns more fuel. And your brain, bless its energy saving heart, would rather not. So, what we often call procrastination or laziness, it's actually your brain running the numbers. Is this worth the effort? Do I need to act now? Can I get away with doing less? Of course, this isn't an excuse to avoid everything, but it's a shift in perspective. Instead of beating yourself up for not grinding harder, you start to see the pattern. Your brain's job is not to make you productive, it's to keep you alive, with as little energy loss as possible. And when you understand that, everything changes. Suddenly, the problem isn't about willpower, it's about energy. And energy can be managed, structured, and directed, not just pushed through by force. But how do you work with your brain's energy saving system instead of constantly fighting it? That's where things get interesting. You ever notice how brushing your teeth feels effortless, but writing one email can take half your afternoon? It's not because brushing is fun, it's because it's automatic. Your brain doesn't have to think. No analysis, no emotional stakes, no unknowns. Just toothpaste, scrub, rinse, done. But that email, it involves decisions, uncertainty, maybe a bit of emotional risk. So your brain looks at it, calculates the effort required, and quietly backs away. Some researchers refer to this kind of thing as effort discounting. The brain naturally devalues rewards that take more work to get. That's why mentally demanding tasks feel bigger than they really are. Even if they don't take that much time, your brain sees them as costly. And it makes sense. Throughout human history, wasting energy was dangerous. Calories were hard to come by. The body evolved to conserve them wherever possible. That principle didn't disappear just because we have smartphones and meal delivery apps now. Your brain is still using the same old math: save energy, reduce friction, repeat what's safe. I used to think I was just undisciplined. I'd sit down to write, open a blank doc, and suddenly remember it was the perfect time to reorganize my desktop folders, or clean the microwave, or read a Wikipedia article about the history of doorknobs. At some point, I realized it wasn't about motivation. It was about friction. My brain was resisting the unknown, the effort of starting from nothing. So I started changing how I approach tasks. Instead of forcing myself to write an entire article, I'd tell myself, just open the doc and write one sentence. That one sentence usually turned into a paragraph, then a few more. I wasn't tricking myself. I was easing the brain past its resistance by lowering the energy cost of starting. That's what energy smart productivity looks like. You design your environment so the default path is the one you want your brain to take, like laying out your gym clothes the night before, or setting your phone to grayscale so scrolling isn't as fun. You're not demanding more effort, you're requiring less decision making. Even when you're resting, your brain isn't off. The default mode network, a kind of background processing system, kicks in during quiet moments. That's when your brain reflects, plans, replays memories. In other words, it's still working, just not in ways that look productive on the surface. So maybe the real issue isn't that we're lazy. Maybe it's that we're judging our brains by the wrong standards. We expect ourselves to run like machines. Constant output, zero resistance, full focus on command. But our brains aren't machines. They're energy balancing, pattern seeking, beautifully lazy systems built to keep us alive. And when we work with that system, instead of shaming it, things start to shift. You begin to ask, what's draining me? Where is the friction? How can I make this easier? Because it's not about forcing yourself to do more. It's about understanding why certain things feel harder, and then designing around that. So the next time your brain defaults to easy mode, don't call it lazy. It's just doing its job, protecting your energy. And sometimes, the most productive thing you can do is work with your wiring instead of against it. If you like this video, give your brain a tiny dopamine hit by clicking subscribe. It deserves it. And let us know in the comments, what's one thing your brain always seems to avoid? We're all in this energy saving club together.